Howdy, I'm Emily and I'm a junior at Texas A&M University, and I'll be defending the position on the brachnoid wasps compared to how it is more beneficial than the damsel bug.
Howdy, my name is Matt Zabricki, and today I'll be taking the side of the damsel bug with regards to beneficiality in comparison to the brachnoid wasp.
In this debate, I will be discussing why the brachnoid wasp is more beneficial than the damselfly. The brachnoid wasps can be found worldwide and most commonly found in gardens where butterflies and moths locate. They are a small, fast-moving species of wasp. They are usually smaller than half an inch and are narrow and slender with long antennae and a dark-colored body. The brachnoid wasp is an endoparasitic wasp or an ectoparasitic wasp, which means they either live within their hosts or on their host. They are beneficial to gardens because they are known to help eradicate parasitic caterpillars and worms, such as cabbage worms, tomato hornworms, and other insects which can destroy your garden. By laying their eggs in or on these pests, they weaken or even killing them, allowing the plants in your garden to flourish. In warm summer conditions, female wasps can lay up to 200 eggs a day. The brachnoid wasps aren't harmful to humans as they do not sting unless provoked. The sting isn't deadly to humans, even if they were to sting you, but the chances of them stinging are not common unless they are handled incorrectly. The lifespan of a brachnoid wasp depends entirely on the host of which it is infecting. The life cycle begins when a female wasp deposits her eggs in or on a host. Then once the wasps are ready to become pupate, they will do so inside the host until they are ready to emerge from the host by chewing their way out. Most likely the host will die while these wasps grow from within, but even if they do not, they are unable to reproduce, creating more parasites for your garden. Therefore, these wasps benefit your garden by not allowing the parasitic pests to repopulate. Brachnoid wasps are attracted to flowers and nectars grown within the garden, such as herbs, carrots, and other things. So if you are looking to attract more for your garden in order to help control the pests, growing these plants should increase the likelihood of them growing in your garden.
My insect, the damsel bug, or Nabis americoferus, can be found mostly in Central and North America, where they seek refuge in gardens, grasslands, and vast agricultural fields. The damsel bug comes in at 3/8 to 1/2 an inch long, typically colored tan or reddish brown at the opposite end of the color spectrum. They maintain relatively long legs for their size, allowing them to catch prey within their grasp with ease. Their front pair are elongated further for this reason. Their head provides origin of 4 antennae as well as a segmented beak. The beak is often hid underneath the body, but can be brought out and has the capability to pierce its prey. The damsel bug is abundant in gardens, orchards, and other fields sustaining plant and crop growth, specifically cotton or soybean fields. Within these habitats, they feast on numerous different insects that cause damage to crops, such as aphids, leafhoppers, plant bugs, thrips, and even small caterpillars and their eggs. However, the meal list doesn't just end there. They have no problem putting down other small larvae of insects, flea hoppers, lygus bugs, tree hoppers, and spider mites. Although they do feed on certain plant types, they never cause damage, allowing them to maintain the title beneficial insect. All the insects which it digests feed on crops and other plant life, ultimately crippling crop yield, harming local economies in a devastating manner. Some of the damsel bug prey listed above consume garden veggie plants, so the same concept can be applied in this scenario. Families who grow garden consumables cannot sell their crops should these pests make their way into their plant growth, as the majority of the nutrients that sprouts will serve as a pest food source. Luckily for farmers in North and Central America, the damsel bug can too make its way into a nearby garden or crop field, where it then serves as a last line of defense against pests seeking out the nutrients they require. Once the damsel bug reach their full growth potential, they spend their winters covered by plant growth, the soil, or even within the plant tissues, which house the eggs of the female. There it takes 50-some days for the eggs to experience the hatching process, consisting of 5 cycles. Some scientists are even suggesting attempting to attract the beneficial insects to your garden or crop fields. In some cases, they are even trying to place a number of the bugs into a source of plant life directly.
In my opinion, while the damsel bug does seem to have many beneficial properties about it, I still believe that the brachnoid wasp is superior. While the damsel bug has the capabilities to eat their prey, which feed on crops and other plant life, they are incapable of stopping these harmful insects from coming back to harm the crops. Unlike my species, the brachnoid wasp is able to completely stop reproduction in the pests growing in the garden, such as cabbage worms and tomato hornworms. When in turn eliminates them from the garden, the brachnoid wasp is then able to relocate to another location and begin its life cycle on other parasitic creatures living in the gardens. Although, if the parasitic pests do return, they are sure to come back and deal with the problem once again. Like the damsel bug, both creatures help eliminate pests in the garden, although I believe that the arachnoid wasp does a better job. Since the wasps are known as parasitoids, which means they eventually kill their hosts, unwanted creatures are unlikely to ever return as they have all been killed off. The damsel bug has a different approach to fending off unwanted creatures, which is instead of implanting their eggs into the unwanted pests, they feed on them. They are the primary source of food for these creatures, and it may result in them eating creatures that you don't want killed off in your garden.
While the damsel bug does not have the ability to utilize a stinger the way the arachnoid wasps can in fending off pests that make their way into crop fields or gardens, they do ever have the ability to grab with their extended front legs and pierce exoskeletons with their sharp four-segmented beak. Though the blow may not be as lethal as the sting of the wasp, the job gets done in the same fashion and likely the same amount of time. They experience similar effectiveness in regards to pests vacating and staying away from the area of contention. Since pests are the damsel bug's source of food, the likelihood of a pest invasion is little should a reasonably sized population of the damsel bug settle within the soil or plant sources. In fact, I believe that the arachnoid wasp would be less preferable in deterring an infestation. As I mentioned within my opening statement, scientists are now beginning to implement the placing of the damsel bug in gardens and crop fields, noting the positive effects it can have on crop yield. On the other hand, should you have a garden in your backyard, the last thing you want is hundreds of wasps flying around which will sting you should they feel provoked. Although this is improbable, it's possible, whereas the damsel bug, you have a 0% chance of being stung. They can bite you, but from what I've read, you can hardly feel the bites. Both these beneficial insect species would serve your garden or crop field valiantly. I just feel the damsel bug comes with less risk to yourself or your children.
While my opponent made some excellent points about the damsel bug and its beneficial effects to the garden and human society, I still believe that the arachnoid wasp proves to be a formidable rival. Debater B made the point that damsel bugs are not as likely to cause harm to humans as the arachnoid wasps are. He also made the point that scientists have started to implement damsel bugs in gardens in order to help plant life flourish. Scientists and normal gardeners have also started to implement arachnoid wasps in their gardens, intentionally trying to remove pests. Gardeners will intentionally leave broccoli stalks in their garden through the winter in order to protect the plants from cabbage worms. Cabbage worms are insects that flourish in the fall and winter when cabbage production is at its peak. Even though arachnoid wasps' peak production is during the warm, sunny weather, they are still able to reproduce and protect the garden during the chillier months of the year. Arachnoid wasps are still able to lay about 50 eggs a day during the colder months. Although arachnoid wasps are able to sting humans, the risk is incredibly low and the reward is very high. Having your garden protected from pests year-round is a great reward, and your garden will thank you.
Granted, the arachnoid wasp appears to be a more formidable force with regards to garden and crop security. The job will still get done should a farmer or family decide to place damsel bugs around their plant growth. However, should the person in charge of said garden or crop field decide to go with the arachnoid wasp rather than the damsel bug, over 50 eggs a day can be laid by a female. Obviously, as each of the eggs develop into adult wasps, this number of eggs laid can grow exponentially. This would likely cause your garden to be overrun by wasps with large stingers as a result of their quick reproduction process. On the other hand, damsel bugs can generally lay 200 eggs yearly, so the number of offspring that survive will be much less overwhelming. The decision can be boiled down to the size of your affected crop. A smaller garden doesn't seem like an optimal place for arachnoid wasp placement because their rapid reproductive rates can cause problems in such a controlled environment. However, in a more vast open field, I could see how the arachnoid wasp can prove to be effective in maintaining control of pests. At the same time, the damsel bug can do the same job in a larger crop field, but with less of a visible effect to the smaller population size.
The whole point of this debate was to let our readers know why both the arachnoid wasp and the damsel bug are both beneficial creatures. The arachnoid wasp does a lot for pest control, such as implementing their eggs into damaging worms and caterpillars. Since these creatures implement themselves inside the host body, it typically kills them since they are a parasitic bug. Although, on the slim chance they do survive, they will not be able to reproduce anymore. This role in the environment is very important to study and learn about because we want to preserve our gardens as much as possible. They are important to study and learn more about because they can be effective creatures in learning ways to protect our gardens. Many gardeners have hundreds of flowers and crops ruined to unwanted creatures in their garden. But with the help of these creatures, you can find new ways to protect your plant life. Most of the research I found related to arachnoid wasps had to deal with pest control and how they affect the environment and other species of insects living in the same environment. Although there seemed to be a few independent studies about the arachnoid wasp species, most research was conducted while using other wasps as well. It could prove to be beneficial to learn more about the species alone without any other insects interfering. That being said, the arachnoid wasp is a beneficial creature to all gardens, and we should do more to help them protect our plants.
Should you experience any type of garden uprooting, crop destruction, or other plant damage as a result of pests, the damsel bug is a solution for you. With new experimentation being done by scientists at the University of Illinois, the intentional implementation of damsel bugs into infected areas is proven to be a highly effective measure in preventing the further spread of some of the pests mentioned in my opening statement, as well as the restoration of garden plants and other crops. For one, the damsel bug is a lethal predator to many of the bugs we consider to be crop pests in North and Central America today. Utilizing its strong front legs and beak, it tears the pest limb from limb, rendering them unable to cause further damage. Also, their reproductive rates do not in turn cause increased risk because they are not as extreme in comparison to the arachnid wasp. With only 200 eggs being laid yearly, the population will not become uncontrollable. The further study of these noble protectors could pay dividends in the long run for local and state economies. Larger crop yields would be a direct effect of the increased protection damsel bugs provide, thereby bettering the food market with an increase in supply to meet the demand of a growing population. Also, farmers will be less likely to have an entire yield ruined should they begin to implement this new, safer form of pesticide.